All right, guys, we are live. It's episode 239 of the Shooter's Mindset. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Jennifer Seymour's joining me. What's going on, Jen?
Hey, everybody.
We had some technical difficulties here. We're a little late as per usual. A little bit, we're usually a few minutes late. We got about like 10, 13 minutes late here, but we got Robert in. It's the star and guest of the hour. All right, he's the king of the 2 mile, current king, right? How does it like to be king, right? We're going to talk about that. He's also a sales manager for Manor Stocks. What's going on, Robert?
How are you? Glad to be here.
It's good to have you on here. We're going to talk to you again about some long range and some gear that helped you win that competition and stuff that you're familiar with. So we're going to talk about that. Live questions. If you guys are watching on the YouTube side of things, top right hand corner, you can join the conversation. You will get them over to Robert throughout this live show. If you prefer to use Facebook, The Shooter's Mindset on Facebook, you can catch probably our latest posts. You can comment below there and put your questions if you prefer to use Facebook there. All right, the folks over at Tactical Shit for supporting the show for all these years. Folks over at shop.tacticalshit.com for all your tactical shit needs. We have a discount code coming from these fine folks later on in the show, so check them out. Also, the folks over at GSL Technology Suppressors, okay? The world's finest suppressors. Check out GSL Technologies here. Me and Jen have cans all in jail. I have 3 cans from them in jail. Jen has one for her 6.5 Creedmoor in jail. So can't wait for that.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So check out GSL Technologies if you're hunting or shopping around for some suppressor needs, okay? All right, Robert, let's kick this one off. For those who are unfamiliar with you, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into shooting competitively.
Been fascinated with long-range rifles my entire life. Had an uncle who was a pretty good shot. Nothing what we do these days, none of that type gear or anything, but just marksmanship, and was just obsessed with it at an early age. So it's just something I always pursued. First thing I ever really bought when I turned 18 with a good job was a long-range type rifle, and it's never stopped, not even slowed down as far as I'm concerned. So, it's just been a constant learn and trying to do better since
there you go. Now what do you also do for man?
I'm their sales manager. Do a lot of customer service, customer relations, technical stuff. Some of our foreign distributors, help them out, go support events at matches, things like that. Go to trade shows and events, and anything I can do to get another stock out there on the streets is my job title as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, we appreciate. Yeah, I mean, you got into long shooting, long range. You got into shooting in general at a young age. But what really got you into precision rifle shooting? Were you kind of the hunting type with the dad? I mean, or what got you into that kind of style of shooting?
Rebellion, just like any other teenager would be. My family was a shotgunning. We didn't even own a rifle in the house, so I had to be the one to go out and do that and want to go out and stretch it out further. I remember getting a 6.5 55 Swedish Mauser and a case of Norma ammo at a very early age, and just learning how to shoot things at 200 and 300 yards, and then started really getting exposed to more things about 08 or 09. I was working on a job up in Ohio, and I'd already been exposed to some long-range shooters and bench rest in Louisiana, where I'm from. We went to Ohio and worked on this job and found Thunder Valley Precision. And the day I walked out there, I saw guys shooting out to a mile, and it was field type shooting, more realistic, practical type stuff than what I was used to with bench rest and anything I'd been exposed, and knew right there that was exactly what I wanted to do. And we started out shooting. It was a match that day, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I signed up. I hit one target. The first target of the day on my last shot, I hit it, and that was the only one I hit, and walked away in last place, but told myself I'm never going to come in last again. I'm going to learn, I'm going to do better, and it lit a fire, and pretty much all it is too. And that was about in 08 or so, and that's when the bug really bit, and just kept on going with it. Still here today.
Yeah, there you go. Well, tell us about this. For those who are unfamiliar, the King of the 2 Mile competition. Tell us what that competition really is about and style of shooting.
That's obviously it's ELR extreme long range, so the closest targets will be past 1,000 yards. You really won't engage anything probably inside 1,500 is where a lot of people consider ELR. Uh, to me, it could be anything. I guess it's cartridge based, but so it's the pinnacle as far as I know of a lot of the ELR matches. There's other ones and they're growing. It's a fast growing sport. It's a lot of fun, but it's something that my boss and company has done for before I started working for him. So I went last year with him and spotted and helped. And he offered me a spot to go with them this year and compete because I love shooting. So I went with that. But it's a elimination type match where if you fail to hit a target throughout the sequence, you stop at that point. And say they give you 5 opportunities on a target, they score it by distance times attempt. So if you get 5 attempts, your first shot, which is your first round, would be worth 5 times the distance and is in points. And then the next shot would be times 4, next shot times 3, and so on. So they'll do 5 shots for the first target, and then they'll go 3 all the way out. So, you'll see some guys that go out there and they never get on the first target. And they might shoot a group like that right off the right-hand side, and they never knew where it was at or something. And they're out. They drove that far. They spent all that money. They practiced. They did all that just to fall short right there. And some really good shooters do that. So I thought that's where I was going to fall in, to be honest with you. And I was just like, I just want to hit a few targets and just not look bad. That was my goal when we went there. But so you'll have a qualifying run built up like I just described, and then they'll take the top 10 shooters no matter who falls where. It's the top 10. It'll be a finale, and then they go shoot it out the next day in a closer timeline. So all those guys usually compete under very similar conditions rather than being first shooter on day 1 and last shooter on day 2, where you could get the luck of the draw on better or worse conditions. I mean, it's a competition. You'll never fix it, but that's their way to balance that out the best that they can.
Man, I mean, I heard that you won this competition, by a pretty decent margin. I heard, that you pretty much took off with this win. I mean, was that really the case, or how close was it?
We had a good run. We won by 22,000 points. So I was watching these other people run. I shoot PRS and those type matches, more practical long range. So it's just like that. I watched other shooters shoot. I saw like, hey man, they're favoring the left edge. I was looking for trends the same way, and I'd watch other runs. I'd hear people applaud and clap like that was a good run. I'd look at the score and I was like, man, he did pretty good. And I remember walking to the line and seeing people, and kind of just got a boost of motivation. And when I lay down there, started shooting, and it kind of hit me when I fired the last shot that we didn't miss a target. We dropped one shot, and other than that, we cleaned it. So I was like, it kind of hit me. I was like, that was a pretty good run. If there would have to be 9 people clean it, or actually there had to be 10 people clean the entire course to knock me out of the finale. So I was like, I'm in the finale. And so I was set right then. I didn't know if it was a fluke. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I had a good run. We had practiced the day before, and I got to know the capabilities of that rifle, and it was very impressive. And the accuracy of that rifle and ammunition and scope was dead on, and I was just amazed. And it was another thing, kind of like we see in PRS. I kind of had target shock because I was practicing on the smallest little rocks, little clay pigeons, things like that. And then the next day we show up, and the targets, I mean, they were a minute and a half or 2 minutes wide. They're not monstrous, but compared to what we were shooting the day before, they were generous. So I just felt good, had a good wave of motivation, and we kind of just shot good. We did our dope the same way. I didn't run it any differently than I would any normal PRS type match. To me, it seemed like a field shooting style where you're shooting multiple angles. Some are higher and lower. You pan left, you pan right. You're shooting different winds, but it's all on the same course of fire. So, you might have to shoot left and then pan right, and the wind might be a little bit more drastic. It might be a little more. So I would kind of take information as I gather it on the closer targets and just keep it applying it further the same way we do. If you're holding right edge at PRS and you're shooting a troop line and you're working your way out, well, generally, if you start off with the right edge hold, you're probably going to be off the right edge the further you go out. And we kind of just did it the same way. We didn't run a wind coach or a spotter looking for mirage or anything like that. We took a general assessment of what we thought the conditions were going to be and decided to adjust them on the fly. So the two guys that were with me, we all had these Bushnell LMSS spotters, and they have a reticle in them, and we kind of just gathered data from start to finish, and like, we're trending on the right hand side, put 2/10 left into it, and then 14, gradually add. And same thing with the elevation. If you see that you're trending low or trending high, you can make an adjustment for it and to be closer to center from there on out, because there's a lot of variables in that. So I took a very simple approach and didn't run it much differently than I run any other type match. I mean, it's just a bigger gun, bigger numbers of distance, bigger bullets. So
how much time did you have to do the shot? And it was 9 shots?
I think it's 15 shots.
15? And how much time did you have to do it?
I think you have 7 or 9 minutes, which to me seemed like an eternity. I think we finished with several minutes left to spare, and a lot of guys were timing out. And I was wondering, like, man, they're timing out. You got to be fast. And we didn't waste any time. I moved fast so that I could shoot slow. And, if there's anything I'm not going to rush, it's a shot. If it takes me longer to set up and make the shot right, so be it. But I'm not going to break a shot bad if I can help it.
So, is this more of a team? You keep saying we, and I know I've heard Emil Praslik said that he is a coach for some ELR stuff. So can the team members with you spot for you on the clock, talk to you on the clock, correct you on the clock? How does that work?
They're the only two that can. You're not supposed to get any influence from anyone else. So a lot of teams, like guys like Emil and all that, like, them guys are awesome. So they're real good at reading wind. They're real good at looking for changes and stuff. And I'm from Louisiana, where if the wind gets up to 3 or 4, we head to the range and practice. That's a storm coming in for us. So I don't have the wind skills that all these other guys have, and I realize that and acknowledge that. But so it's kind of one of my weak points. So I'll try to accommodate in other ways. But yeah, so you'll have some guys that they're looking for the impacts, and they might be focused on the target with one type of optic. And then these wind coaches, they might be focused in and looking for mirages and looking for change, and they're looking for terrain features and all these things. We didn't try to BS ourselves into thinking we could do any of this crazy stuff. So we took that general assessment when it started and kind of worked on the fly. So we were 3 sets of eyes, and yeah, it was a team event. And them guys, they're as much of it as me, or they're more of it as far as I'm concerned. The day one on the finale, on the qualifying run, they didn't see anything that I didn't see already. I watched every bullet strike that target, or I'd see where it missed. I only missed one time on the qualifying run, but I saw it. And so you see other guys, and bam, they shoot, and then they're changing their ammo and they're looking for it. And then 2 spotters, now instead of 3 sets of eyes, now you have 2, and they're on glass, and they might peek down looking for someone else. So I maintained follow through. And when I broke that shot, I would stay in it, and I would watch, and I would kind of count in my head, okay, that bullet should get there about now. And then you'd see the splash, you'd see the hit, you might not see the hit, you might see the target sway this way, and I knew I hit it on that side, something like that. And that was, and we believed the bullet. After that, we let the bullet tell us everything, and I really didn't care what the wind did or I thought it did, because I thought it. I don't know that that's going to do this. I don't have that much experience on these guns. I just have to rely on the information it gives me. And what better source of information is this actual bullet in these conditions in match situations? So, but that calibrating our brain with the Kestrel the day before in the desert is what did it. That was huge too. Just shooting rocks on the hillside. We got to go out to this one guy's property and just shot some rocks on the hillside, and we'd ranged it. We brought some vectors out there and we'd range a rock. Okay, it's 2,862 yards. We run that in our dope and see, like, are we high, are we low, are we left or right? Like, what is it? And we figured out how to true our data to match it, and it was on. I mean, we were like, we stand a pretty good shot just because everything's tracking pretty good, but we didn't try to make it any more technical than we thought we could or needed to, because we're all pretty simple-minded country boys that you just like shooting guns, Yeah,
man. I mean,
that's fun.
Yeah,
it was a great time.
Yeah, I like it, man. I told you, and I've seen a couple of these. They kind of were filming this competition, King of 2 Mile, like they did the 3 Gun Nation events. You know what I mean? The guys were just laying down prone. You have all these competitors out there. The first time I saw it, I'm like, dude, I didn't even know about this game. We knew about the PRS stuff and, Jen shoots that stuff, but I never really seen this style of the game, like in person or on TV or wherever I was watching it from. Might have been a Facebook feed. But I was like, dude, these guns are huge. I mean, twice the size. I'm like, these guys are shooting twice as far. The adrenaline rush from hitting a target that far has to be through the roof. I mean, you got your team with you. You can see there's a lot of money involved in this event. Going there, setting up with all your gear and the ammo and everything like that. And I was watching a dude, and this leads to kind of a question that I had personally, because I was watching a dude on one of those competitions. He was shooting a Barrett box fed, semi rifle out there, 50 cal, and he had a lot of problems with his gun, which caused him to have problems in the event. And I was wondering, obviously, that's not a very common gun to shoot in that style of shooting. Almost all the other competitors have bolt action style rifles. So why is that? Why do most of the competitors opting to go with a bolt action style rifle in these events?
It's most likely going to be more accurate, but you got to look at the industry side too, that, a lot of companies, they're going to bring their own guys out there, like Barrett. Like one year, I think Ronnie Wright, 2 or 3 years ago, got second with a box stock Barrett. And, so if Barrett has guys out there, what better test is it to run their factory stuff, factory ammo, factory gun, and if they do good or have success, I mean, that's a testament that they can take with their product from there on out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it can hang with the custom bolt stuff, I think that the bolt guns and the tune ammo that might not be mag length or any of the thing like that, I think that's going to be hard to beat. Generally, same way with gas guns and the PRS, things like that. You can do it. Some matches lend itself better for those guns, but in that game, I'd want every bit of accuracy I could get. I'd want every bit of precision, reliability, repeatability, all that. I mean, really, all that stuff really comes down, and it's an unforgiving match. So you can't. I mean, there's no redos, no mulligans.
Yeah.
I don't care to run a gas gun, but I do have a big interest in the more practical style rifles because I love that gun that I shoot. It's an awesome. It's fun to shoot, but it's not very practical. So I got a lot of respect for the guys that run out there with the practical style rifles, because I'd love to see some of the ELR go in that direction in the future. And you got guys like David Tubb and I think a lot of the JJ Rock guys push, and applied ballistics as well, more field type rifle that, might not have the same ballistics or capabilities, but they're still pretty cool and hammered still a long ways out.
Man, I'm liking it. What do we got? We got a live question here.
Yep. Tony Paul, he said, long time no chat, tuned in to hear about long distance shooting. And his question is for Robert. So when you're shooting you're a shooting long distance expert. So do you still enjoy shooting 200 or 400 yards, or do you need to shoot extra long distances to enjoy yourself?
No, not, when I show up to PRS matches, that's the joke now, that like, oh, it's 1,000 yards. This probably isn't long enough and all that, but no, that's still where to me where it's at is I have fun more on the dynamic type matches where we're shooting targets 400, 800, the more practical stuff. No, that is still what gets me going. And I love the ELR stuff, but it's a lot more, it's slower and more deliberate and less of it. Like in the competition, you'll fire 20 rounds a day, 30 rounds or something like that. But in PRS or something, even a one-day match, I'll take 80 rounds. So it's more engaging to you, like, stage after stage after stage versus one run. So I still love shooting at 400 yards. Because when you always reduce the size of your targets, we draw dots on our steel at 400 yards or hang golf balls or something. We've done all that kind of stuff. You can keep aiming smaller and trying to predict your solution to a smaller, finer degree. So no, I shoot, our range goes out to 820 or 830. I shoot out there and focus on that stuff more than I do the ELR stuff. And that's the same way we did with the King of 2 Mile gun. We did all of our testing at 650 yards and 1,000 yards. We didn't even shoot it past 1,000 yards till we went to Raton, and we were there a few miles away from the venue when we got to shoot at some rocks at this one guy's farm. But we tested it at 1,000 yards and knew it was shooting, and the scope tracked good. We got to do everything we needed to there. So like the short range stuff, you might consider 600, 700 yards short range compared to this ELR, but that's still super important to me, and I get a kick out of that.
Yeah,
it's just as good.
That was one of the questions that I had on here, was about how did y'all actually practice for it? And I know you said y'all went out and did the rocks. I know you shot the rocks at 2,800, but how much practice at those ranges did you get in, or was it like a week before you just did a little? How much did you
15
do?
rounds before the match. Maybe 18. It was 20 or less, I'd say. And only 2 of those shots I remember we got zero info from. And it was actually the same rock, and it looked like a dry spot around it, so I knew we'd get some kind of info. So the perfect target was like, here's a single rock, really small, surrounded by dry stuff. So I don't care if I hit the rock or not. I can miss it 10 feet to the left. I don't care, as long as I get data from it to be able to correct. So we'd send it, and I'd say, okay, I shoot a 6 Creed. This would need 2 meals of wind in this situation. Let's hold 3/4 of a meal or something. And bam, we'd shoot. We'd wait for us, like, oh, it only needed 4 tenths. Like, these things are beasts of rounds. So I calibrated what it takes to blow this bullet this far off, and how forgiving it was, what mattered, what didn't. And, we would just look at different rocks and, okay, we're tracking good until we hit 2,400 yards. Now we're starting to hit low. So, let's change the BC and start running banded BCs. So I'd look at the speed, the arriving speed of wherever it started dropping, and right there I'd draw a line in my ballistics chart, and I'd drop the BC a certain percentage. And then I would, do that again. And then we'd say, okay, at 2,900 yards in this DA, these conditions, we're starting to add dope again. So I'd do the same thing. I'd band my BC again until we trued up everything. And once it was trued up, well, we're hitting on our water line, now it's wind. So we eliminated one variable. That's a huge variable that you need to get out of the way, because a lot of the guys that we beat, and I say that as I consider these guys better wind readers, better shooters, better ballisticians, all these things better than me. We had success because we didn't have to struggle with these things. They struggled. If they could eliminate one of these variables, then they only have to handle one, the other one, and makes your job a lot easier. So we kind of used those rounds and took a lot of information from them and made it to where we didn't have to fight much when they started that clock the next day at the match. So it wasn't.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of blown away by you only had 18 rounds of practice to shoot this competition. Obviously, what from what you're saying is every round there's a lot of studying and obviously collecting data that goes behind every one, so it makes sense. But when you just hear 18 rounds, like, dude, that's one pistol stage for me. You know what I mean? And then, like 18 rounds I could fit 18 rounds in my magazine for my Smith and Wesson. It's like not,
I
it
carry these
doesn't.
tab bags, and it only held 20 rounds, and I usually put 130 rounds in it. And these things are $8 a shot, so
Yeah, I hear that.
when you start piling it up and looking, and like, we didn't need to practice a lot at the match. We're only shooting 15 rounds if you go that far. So we wanted to kind of simulate everything that we could. And as long as our data's tracking, I wanted to save my barrel. This barrel we brought is shot out. It was shot out, apparently, put in a corner for years to come. And we needed a gun with the quickness. So Tom's like, well, there's a barrel in the corner we can use, because my gun wasn't going to be ready. I was going to, as far as the plan was, I was going to shoot my gun in Raton for the first time when I was out there. And I was like, I don't feel good. But actually the pressure was also like, I can't look like an idiot, because, I can blame everything on the gun. If it goes downhill, we're all the fault's here. But Tom's like, no, we'll take this barrel, and brought it over across the street to Crescent Customs. We're right across the street from GA Precision and Crescent Customs, two good gunsmith companies. And they were able to help us out and get it chambered up. And we went out and fired 15 rounds or so, looking for a load on one day, found that, come back, loaded up 20 more, took it to the range, zeroed it, got speed, and just did a scope tracking test. Everything passed for flying colors. Then we drove out there. We loaded up in the hotel room the night before, both nights, or all 3 nights, one for the practice, reloaded those same brass for the match the next day. And then when we were in the finale, loaded up the same rounds for the following day. So
I always wonder what housekeeping thinks when they come into hotel rooms and see reloading equipment in there, because I talked to some of these precision rifle shooters. Anthony, reload in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Literally.
We carried those Stanley vices, carpenter vices, and we mounted an RCBS 50 cal press on the table. We had charge masters by the TV. It's a pretty primitive reloading setup. And for the match, when we drove out there, we load everything off of the truck. We plug it into the F-250 in the outlet, and we reload in a barn built in 1864, and we just have everything drilled to a table. The wind's blowing through. We let it ride, and we don't take it too seriously.
I don't know. Impressive stuff. So you said you won this competition with a barrel that was sitting in the corner of like a closet that was supposedly shot out. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Well, they got it rechambered and all.
But
they set the chamber back to a degree.
Like,
so it's got 2 markings on it, I believe, one on the bottom side and one on the new side from each gunsmith.
Man, you sound like me a little bit, because I'm like, dude, I'm just going to shoot this competition this week. I have no holster, no mag pouches. I'm just going to order it. Hopefully it gets here before the match. I'm just going to go out there and shoot. And I'm hoping I'm going to win, but I got better shooters who do they read wind better than me. They know how to find a mirage better. They know how to do all this better than me, but I'm just going to go out there and shoot and do what I can do, and hopefully I win.
Man, that's what it's all about. If I don't have fun anymore, I'm going to stop showing up these matches. I mean, that's the only reason I go. Work's got some influence in it, don't get me wrong, but like, we go there to have fun. That's what other people are there for. Everybody's there to have fun. So that's the main goal. Finishing all that is secondary, but I mean, you don't want to look like a fool when you go out there, and I can handle that on my own, but it worked out, and I'm used to doing everything last minute. That's how we do so much of our shooting game. We'll like, oh man, we got a match this weekend. It's Thursday night. I better start loading, because tomorrow I need to get on the road. We'll load ammo last minute, do all these things last minute.
Can't have stale ammo.
Do what? Yeah.
You can't have stale ammo. You got to reload it the night before,
right? It's got to be fresh. It's got an expiration date, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah. You got to fire it and look in the case to find it, though.
How many rounds will that barrel be shot out?
I've had people tell me 100. I've had people tell me like 700. I don't know. I guess
put 100 through it at the Precision Rifle Expo, so it must be more than that. But I wondered about that when we were there. I didn't know how many rounds. I mean, we're getting 2,000, 2,500 on most PRS. So I didn't know how many rounds it would take to burn that out, because I know it's going pretty fast out of that barrel.
That barrel got hot those days too. And I don't know if you remember, I had those things you put around your neck like fishermen's wear. You soak it in ice water, and I'd wrap it. We brought towels up the second day and soaked them in ice water, and we'd wrap it, and it would cool. It would warm them towels up pretty quick. The thing got pretty hot, but I don't know. I'm going to keep seeing what it'll do, and I'm documenting velocity, and I always keep a certain amount of powder out of each lot left, so that when I get to a certain stage, I'm like, I want to check velocity. I'll use that same lot of powder, same lot of bullets. I put it in there to see what my muzzle velocity is. Is it lower? Is it the same? How much has changed? How much has temperature influenced it? Things like that. So it's holding up strong right now. It seems. I haven't. It was 50 feet per second slower last time I ran it, but it was a lot cooler when I ran that powder. A lot cooler.
Right.
So I'm wondering, that has to have some of the influence in it, but I'd love to test it, and see. But
it's crazy.
We've got new barrels going and new reamers and looking at changing everything, which I know sounds even crazier. You have success one year, and now we're changing everything again to do it. And we compete at a different level than a lot of these people. We run a very traditional style setup with just ring. We don't run adjustable rings. We run standard Badger unimounts on a, just your scope reel. And, we don't use the prism sights like the Charlie TAC HQs or whatever they call, which are awesome units, not knocking them. That's got to be a huge advantage. And I'd run one in a heartbeat, but we run a pretty stripped down rig compared to most people. But it's worked out pretty well.
It's worked out for you.
Shoot them, they shoot well, and everything's solid. I'm not worried about anything coming loose on any of those other ones, but you just know you're not going to have any trouble with this. But I've never heard of any people having those troubles. But we are pushing the limits, like on scope travel and things like that. So if they go out any further, we'll have to look at doing something, but we can get to that 2 mile mark, and that's about it, but don't really care on shooting too much further than that anyway.
There we go. I had a live one here come in on the announcement we posted on the Shooter's Mindset. Just a pretty basic question. He says, what rear bag were you using in that photo?
In the photo? So I only carry 2 rear bags with me. And I carry a Tab Gear standard rear bag that I've had since 08 or 09. Thing's awesome. It's one of my favorite rear bags, and an Armageddon Gear Game Changer. And I'll use either of them separate, or I'll combine them sometimes. I like the Game Changer because you got a big, tall bipod on the front, so sometimes you need a lot of adjustment, and that Game Changer will give you like 6 different levels of adjustment. The Tab Gear will give you 3. It's real basic, and since I've been shooting it so long, I know it real well. If I need to come down or up, I know which way to flip it and get it on its end, squeeze it before I stuff it under there, squeeze it after. There's a few different ways to use it, but an Armageddon Gear Game Changer and a Tab Gear standard rear bag. And that's all I shoot for PRS, bench rest, ELR, whatever. I keep the same gear.
Got a couple more here. Tony says he haven't watched in 2 years or so, not even sure who the hosts are. I believe 2 years ago it was the same host. Yeah, it'll be Jen and the Clevingers on the show, but appreciate you watching this one. John Will Brown says, what app do you use?
I use Shooter, the $10 Shooter app. I have AB Kestrels. I run a lot of the Hornady Ford off. I have AB, my Kestrel's AB, like I said, Shooter. The reason I chose Shooter is it let me put in a 0 atmosphere. That's the only reason. I could have run AB. I thought about running AB Kestrel and then putting in my offset and shooting a paper at 100 yards or something like that, and measuring how far I am above my point of aim, my point of impact versus point of aim, and running an offset. But I decided to run a 0 environment. So, you shoot at 100 yards every single day. It can be 30 degrees. It can be 90 degrees. Very rarely at 100 yards are you going to change on these type guns. But at 1,000 yards, we're zeroing in Missouri and then driving to Raton, New Mexico, and we're traveling from 1,500 foot above sea level to 8,000, 9,000, I forgot what it is, and shooting in DAs from density altitudes from 2,000 feet to 10,000, 11,000 feet. It gets pretty high out there. So even 1,000 yards, things will change. So I didn't know if I'd have the ability to 0 on paper or something clean and perfect there. So that's why I decided to run with the Shooter app. But I did $10 shooter wrap and we ran G7 BCs. You know, we're looking at doing some things different this next year, but as of right now, I mean, that's still what I'm rolling when I go shoot. When we shot the expo, you know, ran shooter and we were on, I think we were a click or two off from what we needed to be at distance. I mean, I've had great luck with it and really no reason to change.
There we go. One last one here live from Tim. He says, do you true your dope or ELR for ELR or PRS?
I used to do it a lot, and then I started learning what can affect your outcome, and you know, sometimes you're influencing in something that you don't need to true at distance. So yes, as long as we had good clean light and air, you know, meaning like mirage, things like that, I would true BC. So I use a magneto speed, and I call that the gospel. There's, you know, a few things you try to knock out. Like, I can't fight all these things at once. So whatever I put that magneto speed on it, whatever it tells me, that's what I put. And we even ran 2 lab radars at one point. There was somewhere else. I don't own one, but these 2 guys had it. So we ran 2 and the magneto speed strapped on, and all 3 of them were reading within like 4 feet per second difference. So I was like, okay, that should be good. So whenever I'd see an error at distance, I trusted my scope tracking too. So I was like, I'm not going to tinker with any of these 2 things. So BC, we adjusted BC, and it didn't take too much, but we'd adjust a little bit and, you know, be dead on. And then when I used the Hornady 4-Dop, which is mostly what I use these days for anything I have that Doppler file on, they have a thing called the coaxial feature to true, and I've done that on 1 or 2 rifles, but it's very rarely needed anything. So I pretty much run it straight up, and I've had great luck out of probably the 20 or 30 rifles I've set up with it. And I mean, sometimes you need a true, but a lot of times there's something else out there that is making you hit high or low or whatever it may be, and you true it to make it work, and then you go somewhere else and it's not right, and you have these problems. So you know, everyone's had different luck, but I've had great luck running most of the numbers that everything give me the way I gather it. You know,
That's
so
huge. Just knowing how to do that. I'm still learning all that, I think.
And I used to fight. I used to true things all the time, and it would work good, and then it would be way off. Where I learned if I run the stuff, I might not be dead on all the time, but I'm never today I might be a 10th high, tomorrow a 10th low or something, versus like now I'm 6/10 high, or, you know, something, or at this distance I'm crazy high and now I'm crazy low. One of the first ways I heard about doing it was we'd shoot at clay pigeons at 600 yards and 1,000 yards, and we juggle our velocity and BC till those 2 numbers matched, and then we were set everywhere, and that would work a lot of times and do good. But then I'd travel somewhere else. I remember when I first started shooting this stuff, I didn't have a Kestrel, I didn't have any of these things. I'd go shoot a match in Ohio, then I'd go down to Louisiana. I shot a match with Terry Cross and learned these things. You know, I didn't know about DA or things like that, and we'd start seeing it. So once I got a crash course on traveling around and shooting, here's miragey, and then up there it's clean air, it's cold air, you know, I started fighting it. I think if I had been in one location, I would have thought I had success a lot better than I did. But since I traveled as much as I did for work, you know, I got exposed to these things and learned that there was something else out there. And, you know, we used to gather our dope in Louisiana laying prone. You could lay prone in the mirage and hit at 400 or 500 yards, get up on the bench, which is 4 or 5 feet higher, and hit 4/10 difference. And, you know, we started learning, like, wow, this mirage, things like that will affect you. You're not looking at the target. You think you are, but you're not. So when you start putting those errors into truing, that's how you start getting in other problems. I've never seen BC so far off that it reads that bad, or my magneto speeds never gave me a speed that was so far off. You know, I've never had a trouble with scopes tracking. You know, if you have that trouble and you think it's a BC issue, well, now you're jacking up a lot of things. And like Brian Litz talks about that in his DVDs and stuff, and, you know, the errors to look for, and that's nice to know. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna say people don't have trouble, but a lot of times you're trying to fix a problem with something else that is a problem that you're not even aware of. So that's why I'm kind of scared of any kind of truing. I want to really know what the problem is before I just start changing stuff on my system. And I play at night with my Kestrel and with my shooter app and all that. I play with these things to see, like, what does this do? What does that do? But, very rarely do I have to alter it from what it's supposed to be from the get-go.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like way too much going on here. All right.
But I'm not doing anything. I'm just telling people that do all that stuff. Sometimes maybe you need to take a step back and just go simple, because I run a very simplistic mindset and gear and all that. I try not to put too much in it, because usually the equipment's better than we are. I know it's better than I am most any day. So I'm like, well, a very smart dude designed this app. He put all this time and money into it, and some Louisiana redneck thinks he can tweak it to make it better. I don't get it, but so
Yeah,
I just
that actually leads into my next question very well, because it's kind of a long question, but at the end of it, the ultimate question is, do you feel that it's the Indian or the arrow that wins matches? And I was talking about, at the Precision Rifle Expo, I got to shoot that gun. That is a beast of a gun. And maybe I'll repost that video on the Shooter's Mindset page again after this, so they can see. I did. I was all excited. It was awesome. But I know that you didn't have much time behind that gun at all before you went and shot it. So my question was, how did you handle shooting a gun you had just gotten? And do you think it's the Indian or the arrow that wins matches?
In that, I think everything matters. I'm not trying to put any credit on myself or anything, but I made sure I minded the fundamentals as best as I could. I think it's gear management. I think it's ballistic data. I think it's, how you manipulate your ballistic computer, all these things together. So I knew that this whole match is like a stage in like PRS. So normally we're shooting 20 10-round stages, right? So I'm shooting a single stage of 13 rounds. So I'm like, I got 7-9 minutes. I'm not going to break on my fundamentals. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to have to trust the dope that I'm running. I'm just going to have to believe the bullet. So, I think it's everything together. I don't think you can have fundamentals that outshoot a bad gun. I don't think a good gun will be so tolerant that you can just give it any kind of sloppy lack of fundamentals as you want, and it'll still hit. They are forgiving guns to a degree, but they handle differently. At least mine does. It handles much different than any of my PRS guns. When your face seems to be up here and your hands down here, and when you fire, it's so front heavy that you have to find the trace out there, and it just feels different. 2 or 3 shots, and I'm usually on and back on it good. But I didn't really, like I said, I didn't do anything different. So I don't want to take all the credit for it, because the gun and the ammo and the bullets, everything plays into that. I don't think you can really fudge on one thing out there too much. So
what you're saying is we can't buy our way into a good gun and win.
I don't think so.
I don't either. I think it's funny. Everybody that gets into the buying the gear, and I just need better gear. I need better gear. And sometimes it's like, no, I think you need to slow down and work on fundamentals.
Like those bullets, I give so much of the credit to the bullets. Those bullets were tolerant. They allowed us. We didn't have much time, so they would have been finicky. We'd still be doing low development in Missouri when the match is going on, or something like that. But they were very tolerant, so they worked good. They cut the wind and the atmosphere very well. So much to them. I think powder choice is important. Your cleaning regiment, your scope, your zero, all these little things. I think you can be a good shooter, and I think you can have a good gun, and those two things aren't enough. You have to know how to make your solver read the correct stuff at distance, and like I said, we did true that a little bit, but it was just BC. we just had 2 extra BC programs we do, and we just run 1 to 1 distance and then run 1 to another distance, and then we're just banding it. So I think it's a little bit of everything involved and a whole lot of luck.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Gonna get into discount corner here. Try and save you some money from some companies who support the Shooter's Mindset Show. Also, forgot to mention the shootersmindset.com. If you follow that, you can watch all the live shows, the Shooter's Mindset Show. Check out our blogs, our shop, all in one spot. That's shootersmindset.com. All right, Jen, you usually start us off with discount corner. What do you have?
Yep, you can get 10% off at Carbon Arms at carbonarms.us, and it's on shotgun shell caddies, extension tubes for shotguns, ratchet belts, all that good stuff. So, Robert, you can tell your family that's into shotgunning they can get 10% off with TSM10 at carbonarms.us. And you can also get 10% off in the Shooter's Mindset store that Anthony was just mentioning at shootersmindset.com. So go check it out. You can get 10% off using the code GENTSM10. We've got TTI base pads, Gear Nation t-shirts, all kinds of stuff. So go check that out.
Boom, there we go. Just some discounts on my end. Shop.tacticalshit.com, TSM10, save you 10% off their entire website. Also, if you're in the St. Peters, Missouri area, check out their retail spot. Yell TSM10 at the cashier, save 10% off there. All right, TaranTacticalInnovations.com, that's Taran Tactical Innovations, base pads, all their gunsmithing parts, Benelli's, Glocks, all that stuff. TSM10 for 10% off over on their website. Lastly, I have umtactical.com, TSM10 for 10% off, umtactical.com. Anything from you, Robert, as far as off the top of the on the fly discount codes? What do you have?
Not too much in it. I represent Bushnell and Manners, and always glad to help another shooter out if they come our way needing something, out there to help anyone out I can.
There you go. How can people get a hold of you? Is it just on your Facebook page, social media, website? What do you got?
Any of that, our website at the store is www.mannersstocks.com, and get in touch with me. I'm at robert@mannersstocks.com, and look anybody up that I can, get them out there.
There we go. I really want to get into more of the Manner Stocks thing. We talked a lot about shooting aspect and the King of the 2 Mile and stuff like that, but what are your most popular stock and why? And what are some options?
It is not the King of 2 Mile stuff. That is a very low percentage. We don't promote or push or too much of that stuff anyway. We'll show up to events and support it. Hunting and like practical PRS type stuff is our bread and butter. Yeah. I mean, we'll take over, and then it might be target tactical style stuff here and there too. But our most popular stock model is the EH1, and that's the Elite Hunter 1, but it's like a hybrid of a long range. It's a long range precision hunting stock is what it's designed for. But you might have a week where it's PRS stocks and T4As and T2As, all these tactical style stocks going out, and then the next one, it's these little thin, trimmed down hunting stocks that guys are using for sheep hunts, things like that. So since we specialize in carbon fiber, lightweight stocks, we get a lot of stuff, like a proof barrel and a titanium action, something like that. And a guy trying to build a 6.5 PRC that weighs next to nothing, putting a lightweight scope on it, and they're going to have a sheep rifle, and it's got to perform. It's got to be light. They can go in further. They can pack more out, with a lighter rig, or carry more gear that they don't want to leave behind. Then the next week, we might be building a 15-pound stock for a guy that wants to shoot a 6BR and PRS. He wants to game it, so like that's what's pretty cool about these stocks, these composite stocks, is they're modular to a degree. Everyone thinks of chassis with modular, and I'm not saying they're not. They definitely are. There's some chassis makers out there that's got any option you want, but we can use heavy fill, light fill, different materials in the shell. You want the heavy fill in the back and the lightweight in the front. You want this rail, that rail. You're not really limited to anything. composite stocks are pretty good on, like, versus the old debate was composite or wood, for a lot of things. But, how are the harmonics? Is it too stiff? Is it not stiff enough? Does it warp when it gets wet? Things like that. So the composite stocks took a lot of the problems that you had out with different temperatures, things like that, and made it repeatable, lightweight, and we can inlet this barrel channel, that barrel channel. If we can refill and re-inlet, add hardware, change hardware. So they are pretty modular and lets us change things up a good bit. So it is pretty cool working with those materials and, creating totally different things from day to day. It's cool to pick up today we were working on one with the Mac Boys Titanium Evo Action, a proof barrel, and our EHF1, which is a folding stock. So that's another thing we do is we kind of blend the world of the composite stocks with like chassis and modular. So we offer a folding stock, collapsible stocks, bolt-in mini chassis that you bolt in your barreled action, put a magazine in, go to the range. So that's kind of where we fall in, is we try to blend those two worlds together. And, and that we see all kinds of stuff from that. So every day is a different gun. You never know. So, we have a stock out there for almost every need. Most any barreled action you want to use, most any bottom metal, we'll build you something exactly how you want it to, the color, the weight, the inlet, hardware choice, whatever you want. We'll build it just for you.
Well, so that knocks out a lot of our questions. So you can get them in any color, pretty much any color option you really want. And are they adjustable, shorter length to pull, all that stuff, right? It can be done.
Yeah, you want a long stock, we'll get you. If you want a short one, everything has limitations, but some of them give you a broader thing to work with. You can go short, go long, different ones. Yeah, we'll work for you. Want a 14-inch, 13-inch? You want adjustable length of pull so that your kids can shoot it, then you can go shoot it. Any of those things, every day we deal with that with people that want something totally different, and we'll do our best to accommodate that.
So here we are looking at the website. It's mannersstocks.com. Okay, you can check out their website. They have stuff for hunting, competition, all types of stuff. New for 2018, different colors, man. These are really sexy stocks. Go check that out if you're listening and you want to get into this or just upgrade or add to the collection, right?
Yeah.
Check out mannersstocks.com. Okay. Anything else, Jen? Anything else you have on your end? And any other questions?
I don't think. The only other thing we had on here was upcoming matches. Got any upcoming matches? What else you got to shoot this season, Robert? Anything upcoming?
I don't plan on any matches ever. Or I plan on the gap grinds, the only one, and I shoot a ton of matches. Most everything's off the cuff. This weekend, I come up here to Kansas City to RO this one match, the GA Precision match, and now I'm on the shooting list, so I'm going to shoot it. I shot the Jurassic Classic last weekend. No, this last weekend was the first one I actually got to be a normal human being. I drove up here, but I shot it the weekend before the Gap Grind. I think I had a break between that. I shoot a lot of matches and don't plan or prepare for any of them, so I will be shooting several more matches, but I couldn't tell you right now. You better ask me a few hours before. That's when I'll know.
That's crazy. I usually plan my whole thing out, and then I'm going to shoot TPRC, not this weekend, but next weekend in Arizona, and that just kind of fell in my lap.
Is that Regina's match?
Yep.
Yeah, I bet that'll be a good time.
It just fell in my lap to the opportunity to go shoot it, and so I was like, well, I should really go do it because GSL Technologies is being nice enough and sponsoring the match. So I got a slot that way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready. It's just weird because I'm so used to like planning ahead.
I have fun with
a week and a half out.
Just going, just like, oh, you want to go shoot a match? Let's go. And show up and and kind of be thrown into it last minute, thrown to the wolves. I kind of like that. I get a kick out of it and having to adapt. And I usually take a different gun or a different cartridge, or I'm always trying something new. It's the worst thing to do as a competitor, but I feel like that helps me as a shooter. I don't really care if I'm the best competitor out there. I just want to better myself as a rifleman. And I feel like if I have to shoot in these situations and I can learn to overcome challenges, well, that's going to help me in every aspect, learning to identify, solve, and fix a problem.
Although it had to be pretty cool to ride around in the chair with the crown on.
I told them they didn't have to do any of that stuff. I said, I'm a little scared of heights. So I was like, you can just leave me down here and we'll take some pictures. And
Yeah.
They insisted, so I enjoyed it. I let them take me around a little bit and let them set me down and went off and did my thing.
There we go. Jen, is this your first match that you're actually flying with all your gear?
Yeah, I'm not actually flying with all my gear. I'm borrowing a gun. Tim Milkovich is getting a gun together for me because my barrel is shot out at the gap grind. My barrel went, which is why I shot someone else's gun the second day of gap grind, because my barrel is shot. But so he's got that, so I don't have to fly with my gun, but I have to get all my gear there. So I'm like, how do I get my tripod and all my bags and everything there? So this will be a learning experience. But in fact, Tim was sighting in my rifle, or his rifle that he's letting me borrow. And a rattlesnake came up out of the rocks and came up. It's on his Instagram. You'll have to go see it. This huge rattlesnake chased him out of where he was, and he couldn't even get back to the gun. They had to shoot the thing to be able to get the gun because it was so close to it and it wouldn't go away.
You get you some rattlers take home at least?
I don't know if he did or not. I was like, oh my gosh, don't die sighting in a rifle for me, please.
How'd you like the grind? That was a lot of people.
That was a lot of people. 400 people. It was awesome. I enjoyed it, other than my barrel being shot out and not being able to.
That's.
It was frustrating, but I enjoyed it, and my amateur had a good time, and he's hooked on PRS now and wants to go shoot more, and he's hungry to learn, and and so I enjoyed that. That was fun getting to work with him. I was a little scared to be pro at first because I was like, I'm not a pro by any means, but to be able to, I did have enough knowledge to be able to help him and get him going and tell him to do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, I loved it. I had a great time. If they had another one next month, I'd be going to it again. It was awesome.
That was a fun match. K&M always puts on an awesome time, and I try to make every match there I can. Talking about next matches, I think they're having one in December. No, it's November, a one-day match. I'm going to try to make that. I'm not signed up for it, prepared, or anything like that. But if I can get
Is that the lights out match?
No, that's going to be a one-day one too, and I'll try to make that one too. I shot my first night match in Oklahoma this year, and that was a blast. I wish I would have had illuminated reticle. I ran non-illuminated until a law enforcement guy showed me a trick on taping a glow stick to the front of the scope, and it kind of illuminates it. It makes your image green, looks like you're looking through night vision, but it illuminated reticle, and it was like lighting the light switch, turning the light switch on after that, and I started shooting a lot better. I got like 30th in that match, but it was a fun time, and no heat, no skeeters. I mean, it was a perfect match. So I'd like to do that one at K&M, but no, this one coming up, I believe, is a one-day. It's called the Shooters Challenge. I think K&M does like 3 a year, and I always try to go shoot there because it's like a diverse course of fire, an awesome facility, good times the night before, night after, the hangouts. I mean, I love that part of it just as much as I do the match, just hanging out with everybody and socializing. So
yeah,
that's always a good place, but I will try to make that one if I can.
There we go. We got a couple live ones here, and then we can wrap this one up. We got Stephanie and Bob Jones says hello to everybody. Thanks for watching, guys. We have what do we have? R2KBA is his username. Says, any thoughts on the quick barrel change systems?
I've messed with them. I change my barrels every week. I shoot PRS matches every week, pretty much with a different barrel. And I've been running a Defiance Deviant, and I change them at home myself with a barrel vise and an action wrench. My actions right now at GA, right now getting a new barrel put on. I play with the bar lock systems, the barrel nuts, the what's the guy's name? West Texas Ordnance, a switch lug. Those seem to work pretty good. I think that every barrel action is a barrel swap barrel rigs. I've been changing like that since I started, just a shouldered barrel. And if you got a recoil lug that moves, you might want to have it pinned or something. But other than that, invest in a barrel vise and an action wrench, and you can change them yourself all the times. But a lot of people do it, and it's worked well for me and worked well for a lot of other people. I mean, there are downsides to it that you need to be aware of, knowing how much to tighten it, get enough torque on it. Don't have to be too much and things like that, a few safety aspects. But no, I switch mine left and right. Every match is a different barrel pretty much.
Oh, there we go. What else do we have? We have one. Tony just puts a comment and says, I can't imagine a barrel wearing out during a competition. Chaos. That is a bad day. Agreed. I mean, because you start to doubt your own skill at that point. You're like, what? I'm doing this. Everything's there. Why isn't the round connecting? You know what I mean? I suck. But
the matches are all up here. It's all mental. So the one thing you have to have, shooter's mindset, right, is you got to have confidence in your gear, and you got to have the right mindset, and you have to know that you're the weak link. You're the reason you're missing targets. So if it gets in your mind that it's you and the gun, well, it's just a downhill, slippery slope from there on out. So, you want to roll up with as good of equipment as you can, to not go out. But I guess if you start seeing it hit low, just aim higher. Try to compensate however you can, I guess. I mean, problem solving. That's what it's all about, problem solving.
Boom. There we go. Man, I really enjoyed this show. Rob, thanks for dropping some knowledge, man. Man, a lot of this stuff is completely new to me, especially what you're talking about, man. It sounds like a lot. And I got actually one question I wanted to ask you throughout the thing. I mean, to do the King of the 2 Mile, if someone wanted to really jump into that style of competition, we know these PRS rifles are expensive, but that type of gun has to be even double. What are we looking to get into? Even if I just wanted to be competitive with the gear, what is my bank going to tell me?
Man, there are different ways to go. Obviously, just like everything else, there's more economical versions than others. You can be looking at anywhere, and certain gunsmiths and all can change the game too from what they charge. I mean, I would think to be confident and showing up with something competitive, I bet you could do it in the $5,000 to $6,000 range rifle and all, and then whatever optic you choose to that might work. I run with a Bushnell. I wouldn't have changed a thing at all. I could have spent a lot more on an optic if I want, but we kind of pinch pennies on my end because it's not a gun that I'm going to use every weekend. Like if it's something that I'm going to shoot a lot, to me I can justify putting this on it or that on, or go with these things. But this is a gun I'm going to shoot 2 or 3 times a year, or every now and then a few rounds. But that at that same time, you don't want to skimp on those because you're putting so much into it to go to this competition. So it's that balance. And, I felt like what I chose, I was happy with. I didn't feel like I was giving up too much, but I didn't feel like I was going all in it with little trinkets that can cost $1,500 a piece and you can use it on 2 shots. I'm like, man, I didn't see the return in that for me in my pocketbook. So, I went kind of with an older stock. That stock was used, that action was starting to get surface rust on it. I mean, it just been sitting up the barrel. I mean, which Mr. Tom, not many people have the things laying around that my boss has. So that helped out. But, you can go a little economical on it too, but I think you could spend $10,000 on a rifle pretty fast too. But
so let's say 10 G's on a gun that you're barely going to shoot.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm sure some people do that, but they got deeper pockets than I do anyway, or can justify that more. Like, Here's the deal. I live in Louisiana. My range out of my house, I can shoot out to about 820, 830. I have to travel somewhere to shoot that. If I lived in New Mexico or Colorado and I had a desert behind my house where I could shoot rocks and stuff like that, I might could justify that same rifle more just because, you know, I'm in a location where I could shoot it. So I think your location could help justify it or not, you know, it just as much too. And I think for a lot of guys getting into it, like I was saying, a lot of people in the game trick people or confuse them into thinking you have to be super smart to do it, or you have to have all this gear and all this crazy stuff. And it's simply not true. We go with like you were saying, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like it, but it's really not. We kind of just did the same thing as the PRS, went very basic, and it worked out. So don't be too intimidated. I wouldn't sign up for the King of 2 Mile. It's kind of hard to get in on that because it's, I guess, the big one, and everyone's trying. That's the one everyone wants to sign up for. Here, their wait list is long, but you know, there's all these other events. I know they have several in Texas, and most of them obviously are out west, but you know, try to get into some of them. Spear Point was doing ELR ones, and I think you can shoot for $20. You know, you can go out there and get your feet wet and something like that, and try your hand at it rather than, you know, just dumping it all in at once, you know, and it's an unforgiving. Go to matches where shooters will help you and give you win calls and, you know, and guide you and spot for you. You know, there are matches out there where you're not thrown to the wolves right off the bat. You get a little help, and I'd say go to them, get and meet people. And
Anthony needs to be my amateur next year for the gap grind, doesn't he?
Yeah, I would do that.
It's a fun match. You'd love it.
Yeah, I would do that. Come out there with a gas gun. Screw it.
Do it. There's several people that do it. I mean,
I shot it my first year with a gas gun.
Yeah.
I want to get a gas gun to start shooting that. I've got an itch right now for a gas gun, you know. Yeah, I'm getting the itch for the 22 right now. I just bought a Voodoo and a CZ 455s. I go every which way. ELR to 22 to PRS to hunting. I mean, if it goes bang when I pull that trigger, you know, I'm all for it.
There it is. Awesome show, man. I appreciate the time here. We're going to wind this one down here to shout outs. Jen, what do you have?
Yep. Shout out to Prime Ammunition and Night Force Optics, Lansing Tactical for those gas guns we were talking about, Under Industries for awesome jerseys. You can see mine back there. Check them out. GSL Suppressors. Hopefully my can will get out of jail soon. I think I have like 3 or 4 more months. Yeah. I have a lot of months left. Shooters of Augusta and Sharpshooters of Augusta, Carbon Arms, and Patriot Cases.
Boom. Robert, what do you have? Shout outs.
Manners, GA, Precision, Bushnell, I guess. My circle's tight.
There you
Bushnell,
go.
Right?
There you go. Couple shout outs on my end. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, right below the video, see a yellow subscribe button. Hit that every Tuesday at 9. We're doing a new episode of Shooter's Mindset featuring another great guest. Shout outs to the folks at Tactical Shit, Tandem Cross. If you want to email me, theshootersmindset@gmail.com is a good way to do that. And GSL Technology Suppressors. And that'll do it for episode, what are we on, 239 of the Shooter's Mindset. Thank you guys. Have a good night. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank y'all.